Boker Tov, today's daf is Daf Sadik Vav 96 in Baba Kamas. We learn for Achenu Kol Beis on Cinema Service Shivya. Down about the 11th line down on the page at the two dots right before the lines get wide. Amarava, Gazal Vishbiach, you stole something. You stole something and then you improved it. Umacha. Now we've learned that if you stole something and you improve it, that means you change it in some form, either the names we'll see, or you change the substance of it, that it has like a permanent change. Then you've acquired it. So the increase, the part that you've made it better belongs to you. You only have to return kshas exela what you stole. You stole something worth $100, and now you've changed it. Now it's worth $125. You get to keep that. Now you sell it, right? Or let's say you stole it and you improved it, and then you died and you inherited it to your son, right? You bequeathed it to your son. You're right. What you improved, you sold, and what you improved, you bequeathed to your child. What he means to say here is, we saw yesterday there was a three of machlokas. Rav Meir said, no, you give everything back to the owner because it's a knas. Technically, you own it, but it's a knas. Rav Yehuda and Rav Shimon said, no, you technically you acquired it, but so therefore you get to keep it. But how much do you keep? So that we saw, according to Rav Shimon, you only give back a certain percentage, like the Gazan gets to keep half or a quarter or a third. According to Rav Yehuda, the Gazan keeps the whole thing. And that's what we mean over here too. You only have to return what you stole, and the part that you improved belongs to you. What happens if you sold it? You stole it. You didn't improve it, but you sold it to somebody else. The lokech, the purchaser, he improved it. Mao. Busted the boy after Rav asked the question, how to pashta, he himself decided it. What did the first guy sell to the second guy? Any schus that he had. In other words, the Goslan, if he would improve it and change it, he gets to keep it. And the same thing, that schus, that merit that he acquired by stealing it, although it's a terrible thing, right? You stole it, now you should gain by it. Chote niskar. That's Rav Meir Shapiro. Rav Yehuda says no. The halacha is that if you stole it, again, possibly because of a takanas hashavim, technically minat Torah, you get to keep it, even though takanas hashavim is a takana, right? Not minat Torah, but that's the rule that you only have to return what you stole. Any improvement done afterwards, either by you or by somebody who came because of you, you sold it to him and he improved it, he gets to keep that increase, and all you have to return is what you actually stole. Why Ravi asked this kasha? What happens if a guy improved it? What are we going to do? Get up and make a takana for the guy also and say he gets to keep it? Meaning to say that it sounds like takana, sounds like we're making a reform, a ruling on behalf of the guy. That could be, we're talking about a deraisa too. If a guy doesn't, we don't have a rule here for a guy. The rule of the Gazan gets to keep it is for a Jew. We're not talking about a guy. A guy doesn't have these rules. And certainly if you say for takanas hashavim, we're not going to make a rule for him. Either way, you learn whether it's a deraisa or a drabanan. We're speaking about when he sold it to a Jew. So what? He's only the Jew who bought it from the guy who stole it is only coming with the koach of Avichavim. We're not going to make a rule for Avichavim that he also gets to keep what he stole, and he only has to return the original amount that he stole and not the improvement. We're not talking about a case like that. The Gazal Yisrael, the Jew stole it, and therefore he has a rule that if he improved it, right, he gets to keep the improvement. But and he sold it to a guy. The guy improved it. Then the guy went and sold it back to a Jew. Say, so since the beginning it was a Jew involved who stole it, and later on it was a Jew who bought it from the guy who bought it from the Jew. The Rabbanan made it takana for him, and he doesn't have to return more. In other words, he only has to return what was originally stolen, and not any more than that. And either takanas hashavim or because we're not involving, we're saying that the guy's involvement does not count. Since the guy's in the middle of the Rabbanan didn't make a rule over here for the guy, and we said that since the guy improved it, that doesn't mean anything, and you have to return the original, and you have to return it with the improvement. Take where this question stands. So if a guy's involved, if a guy stole it, certainly he doesn't get the advantage. Even if a guy's in the middle of it, he bought it from the Jew who stole it, and then he sold it back to a Jew. The question is not resolved. Amra Papa, Haiman de Gozel Dikla Michavre. Now we're going to get into the idea of what is considered a shinu. We said shinui masa is kona. That's what the Mishnah said back on Tzaddik Gimel Beis. The shinui is kona b'shinui, not shinui of reshus and yush. That's a different matter. Here we're talking about where there was no yush. Simply there was a change in the item, either in name or in substance. And it doesn't mean where you necessarily did it, because we said, for example, you stole a para and she gave birth. You didn't do it; it gave birth on its own. Or as we'll see, you stole an animal, it got older. It happened naturally, but it was a change. So that's the question. A man stole a tree. Stole a tree from somebody, but he cut it down. How do you steal a tree? I guess by cutting it down. Even though he moved it from the Nigzal's Rishus La'ara the day to his own Rishus, Lokani doesn't require my time. And Mikar Dikla Mikri, Bahashanami Dikla Mikri. Now, if there was Yush, okay, we'll talk about later on about Yush and Shina Rishus, then it's a different matter. Then you could say he acquires it. But there was no Yush over here. All he did was he cut down the tree. It was a tree before, it's a tree now, except now it's cut down. That's not a change. So therefore, Shinu would not be called. The fact that he cut it down didn't mean it's not. It's still a tree. It's called a tree before. It's called a tree now. Right. There's a major difference, but it's not a difference in name. It's not a difference. It's still a tree. It's still called a tree, and it's still a tree. It's the same. It's a tree, but now it's cut down. Okay, we'll see. Now the Gemara is going to give examples. Let's say you cut down the tree and you made logs out of it. Now it's not called a tree anymore. It's called logs. All right, then. Also, lo kani. Why? Kashashtamia, guva the diklamikre. So is that also? No. Here it's called the logs of the tree, the logs of the palm tree. In other words, it still goes by name. So if it's called a tree and now it's a tree, or it's called the logs of the tree, that's still considered the same thing. Guve v'avdikshur. Let's say you stole beams, v'avdikshur, and you stole logs rather, and you made beams out of them. Stole the logs. The log is like the tree. So it's called the log of a tree. If you took the logs and you made them into beams that you can use in construction, then kani, that's considered a change, because now it's not called logs of a tree, it's called beams. When people bring beams into a house, 2x4s or whatever, to build, only says, oh, that's a tree. Nobody calls that a tree. Yeah.
How about the difference between if he cuts it down,
yeah,
or he digs it up with the roots?
Doesn't make any difference. Yeah, it's still called, right. There is a difference. These are all differences, but the difference is it a difference that's machalik? Is it a real difference, or you still go by the name? In other words, if it's got the same name to it, then it's not. Say if you have a lamb and it becomes a ram, then it's got a different name. So it's physically different and it's got a different name. Here, the question is, it's the same tree, except for it was cut down. Now it's not cut down. It's still called a tree. Even if it's logs, it's still called the log of a tree. But if you turn the logs into beams, now they're called beams.
In Hebrew, the word for tree is hitch.
Yeah.
The word for wood is hitch.
Okay, so that's just that's we're going by the Aramaic over here. Kshuhi and Gubi, right. That could be, it's made out of, but you could also say the furniture is made out of eights. It's not the same. It's not the same. It's still called a different thing. Still called. You wouldn't come into somebody's house where he's got some sort of a closet made out of wood and say that, oh, that's a nice tree. You wouldn't say that. Whereas the logs could still be called trees, beams not. Rav Ravi, Kshuri, Rav Ravi, let's say you had large beams and you made them into small beams, also lokani, because it's still called beams. Avdinu Kitsutsai, so let's say you made them into boards, then kani, because it certainly can't go back, and now they're called boards, they're not called beams. Amar Rav Haiman de Gazel Luliva, stole a lulav, a palm branch, Avdinu Hutzi, and now you broke it into leaves, kani, because now it can't revert back. It's now not called a palm branch, it's not called a lulav anymore, it's called leaves, right? Like you take the little parts of your lulav and you make them whatever you call those little bendelach or to tie it up or whatever, huh? Yeah, whatever. So those aren't called. That's not a lulav anymore, right? So that you're calling it to me called lulav. But make it first. It was called a lulav. Originally, it was called lulav. Hutzi v'adin hufi. Let's say you took those little pieces, those leaves, and you made them into a broom, right? You are kona. Why? Because mikara hutzi, originally the leaves, the hashda chufi. And Rashi explains that the way you make it is that you take each leaf and you cut it and you cut it down the middle into two, so it can't revert back to its original state. Because if it can go back, then it's not a permanent change. It wouldn't be called a change. So if it was a regular lulav and you took it and you made it into leaves, that's a change. If you had leaves and you turn it into a broom, also that's a change. Let's say you had this broom and you made that into a rope. They would use that for a rope. My time at the because you could take it apart. The way they made the rope, I don't know how they made the rope out of these brooms, but it could be reverted back to its original state, and then it's not a change. So all these cases are cases where you made a change in the name. And the Mefarshim explain like this. Just because you made a change in something does not help by itself. The name has to change. The name has to change. It's an important that there is a significant change in the item. Even if the name didn't change, could go behem of his skin. Let's say you have a cow and it got older now, right? It's still called a cow. Or avonim v'sisisen, or you had stones and you filed them down. You quarried them, or you cut them down, you shaped them. If it's an important name change, moral aflulo shini masa. Even if there was no change in it, you didn't do anything to it. There's no shini masa, but it's called, for example, a lamb becomes a ram. If it's something that can revert back to its original state, even if the name changed and there was a physical change, it doesn't help. Goes offer. We're going to talk about cases Levena on Amid Bays, that if you stole some dirt and you turned it into a brick, you don't count it because it can revert back to its original state. So the point is that not every shiri ma'isa helps. It has to have a name change, and there's sometimes even if without a name change, if it's an important change, a significant change, that is also shina. So this we say shina is kona without yush is it's only if there's a significant change or a name change. Boy, Rapapa nechlika had tiomas mao. What's the tiomas? The tiomas is the central twin leaf at the top of the lulav, right? The central one that goes up. It's like a double. It's a twin leaf. Let's say that's split. Right? You split that mao. Is that a change? If the tiomas was removed, puzzle, the lulav is puzzle, and the assumption is if it's puzzle as a lulav, it means it's not called a lulav anymore. So kinyan also that should be a kinyan. My love within the same thing. If it splits, it's low. Nitla shiny. If it's removed, it's different. The achashala, it's missing. If it's missing, then it's not a lulav anymore. Then you could say that's a significant physical change. But if it was just split, maybe not. You can understand say no. Not only if it was what? Not only it was nitla tiomas, but even if the tiomas, the central twin leaf, was split, also nasik misha, it's as if it was removed in the puzzle. Ishmamina, you see from here that that's also a significant change, and you would acquire the lulav that way. Amra papa, Ayman, the goes will offer. Let's say you stole some dirt, a lot of earth. From somebody else, but Abde Levinson, you made a brick out of it. Low kani. That's not a significant change. My time, the heart of Mishav Afra. You can just smash it down and become dirt again. Levinson Abde Afra. But let's say you stole a brick and you turned that into dirt, then you are kana. Why? My Amr, what are you going to say? Dilma Hadava Avale Levinson. You could turn that back into a brick again. I live in Sachrit. It's a different brick. Rashi explains because the new brick you're going to make is not exactly the same brick. The bricks weren't perfect. Maybe today they make them with machines and they're all exactly the same meter in size. But in those days, when they would make them into bricks, they weren't all exactly the same. People would be makbid. They said the people are makbid that it's not exactly the same. The Efshel Samson Rashi says it's a little bit bigger, a little bit smaller. So if you stole a brick and you turned it into dirt, you smashed it down. That's a significant change. You can't turn it back. If you turn it into a brick again, that's a different brick, not the same brick. Similarly, Haman that goes on you stole a bar of metal from somebody, and you made some coins out of it. Low kani, you're not calling my time. Because you could turn it back into a metal bar. You say it won't be the same metal bar, just like we saw by the brick. When it comes to metal bar, people are not so makbid about the exact size. When it comes to bricks, people are more makbid because they're using it for construction. Again, Zuzi Bab Nasra, but if you took coins and you melted them down and you made them into a metal bar, then you do acquire. Why? What are you going to say? Maybe you'll say, Hadar Abed Zuzi can make coins out of again. Those are new coins, aren't the same coins. That's not the same thing. if you take if you take dirt and you make a brick out of it, you can make it the same dirt again. Just smash it all down. It's the same dirt. But over here, you're concerned that this is if you make a coin out of it, you stole coins and you made it into metal. And as if you stole metal, you turn it into coins. You don't acquire because you can make back into metal again. But if you turned it into coins, you could say of the Zuzah, you could turn it back into what it was. Okay, so let's just review that piece again. I'm not sure I said. You stole metal and you made coins out of it. You didn't acquire my time and harder of it enough because you can make it back into metal again, even though it won't be exactly the same size. People aren't mocked about that. But if you stole coins and you turned that into metal, then you are acquired. Mayam, what are you going to say? Or you might say, you can make coins out of it. Those are new coins. Those aren't the same coins. Shchimi, let's say you stole old metal or old coins that are darkened. They're darkened, they're like blackened. You make them into new ones. You clean them, you shine them. Low kani. Why? Because they'll revert back the way they were. They're going to get dirty again. And old. But let's say you stole new ones and you made them black. Then you do acquire. Mayim, what are you going to say? You can clean them again. You could tell that they were originally dark. You're not going to be able to return it to its original state, and therefore that's considered a kinyan. So the Mishnah said, Kol Gazlanim, the end of Mishnah, Kol Gazlanim Sham Shtasek Zela. Gazlanim pay according to the time that they stole, because their obligation is to return exactly what they stole. If they improved it or they deteriorated it, they've got to absorb it. They get to keep the advantage or lose the disadvantage. It's their problem. All right. So Lasuyim is something. What's the Zaklal? We already gave the cases where you stole wood and you turned it into kalim. You stole wool and you made it into clothing. You stole an animal and it gave birth, or you stole a sheep and you sheared it. What is this Zaklal coming to teach us? You stole a lamb and it became a ram. Egel, you stole a calf and Nasa Shor and became an ox. Nasa Shine Biado, the change took place in the Gazlan's Rishus, when he acquired it. Now, Tabach Macher, if he now slaughtered it or sold it, Shlotamach doesn't pay the dollar hay. He only pays, right? He only pays kefil, because we're not talking about a Gazlan over here. The same thing would apply here. You see that a Ganaf and a Gazlan are the same thing in that aspect. That a Ganaf and a Gazlan, right, that a Ganav really returns the same thing too, but he has to pay kefil if he's caught with Adam. He's not Modi himself, but he doesn't pay the dollar b'hei if it changed, because it's only pay the dollar b'hei if you slaughtered or sold what you stole. But this is a different item because it became older now. So now it's no longer a calf; it's now an ox, and therefore you don't pay 5. You only pay the kefil for the burglary itself that you were caught on. Ahu Gavra. A man stole a pair of oxen from somebody. Ozo Karabu, and he went and he plowed his field with these on the Ganav or the Gazlan plowed his field with it. Zarabu Zara, and he seeded with it as he improved his field. Then later on he returned the animals to the owner. He returned the animals. Also came Rav Nachman. So the nigel came before Rav Nachman the post. Like Zilu Shomalei Shafta Ashbach. Go figure out how much his field was improved by these animals. Amalei Rava Turi Ashbech Aralo Ashbech. What do you mean? Just let's say his field was worth $500 before. Now it's worth $700 because he improved it. He planted it. He plowed it. So the extra $200, it sounds like you're requiring the Gazlan to pay. He says, why? Did the oxen improve the field and the land itself did not improve? Wasn't the nutrients in the soil, etc.? It wasn't just the oxen who increased it by $200. It was the field, the seeds, whatever it was that increased it. It wasn't just the oxen. Amar, so Rav Nachman said, "Me kamina neshama kule." I didn't say he has to pay the whole improvement, the extra $200. Palga kamina, he should pay half. If the improvement is $200, he should pay $100. Amalei, sof zelu. At the end of the day, what's the difference? How much it was improved? He stole it, and the rule is the Gazlan pays Kamosha Gazel. Sof zelu. But kahadra you return what you stole. The animals are no worse off, right? You use the animals for a few days, and you return the animals. Gazel. He doesn't have to. We're not talking about that the animals were improved or the animals deteriorated. We're talking about the field. Gzelo. Look, a hadra should go back the way it is. The Tan called goes on Mishamak Shasik Zela. They pay back what they give. These animals did not did not deteriorate, did not improve at all. He stole a couple of animals. He used them for a few days and he returned them intact. They were fed and everything. What's the problem? Why should he have to pay for the improvement in the guy's field? Amalei. So Nachman said to the Nixel, Lo mincha, did I not tell you? When I sit in judgment, I'm on the best over here. Lo temely midi. Don't protest any of my rulings. Damar Huna Chavern, our friend Huna said, Aloy about me. Anna Shmuel Malka, I and Shmuel. Shmuel Malka was a famous Goyish king, Shmuel Malka, and he was friends with Shmuel. So many times the Gemara uses the name Shmuel Malka to refer to Shmuel. Anna Shmuel Malka, Achi Bedina. We are brothers in judgment. In other words, in court. Shmuel Achi Bedina. And therefore, if I paskin something, you can rely on that. The reason I said over here that he should pay for half of the improvement in the field, the Goslan, despite the fact that he returned the two animals intact. Hi, Inish Goslan Atiko. He's an old Goslan. He's a professional Goslan. Ubeina Diknasan. I wanted to find him. This is a special fine. You're right. This is not the regular halacha. He doesn't have to pay. The Goslan doesn't have to pay for his improvement in his field from the animals that he stole. But here is a special case that I wanted to give him a fine. Gozel Bey Miskina. Now we had this Mishnah, and we mentioned this yesterday. Gozel Bey Miskina. You stole an animal and it got old, it aged. Excuse me, about a Miskinu. Servants and they got old. Misham Chasik Zela. Why? Again, it might still be called a servant or an animal, but there's a physical change here. So you pay Chasik Zela. That's what the Tanakama says. Meaning, you don't have to pay for the deterioration of the Eved. You just give him back what he stole. Meaning, you have to pay it effectively. Meaning, if the animal or the Eved was worth $100 when you stole it, now it's worth less. You have to pay what it was worth when you stole it. Rav Meir says, "Ba'avodim omelo reishachal fanecha." Says no, avodim are different because Eved is like karka, and karka cannot be stolen. So you can just say, "Take it back. I never acquired it." By a behema, you could say you acquired it. By the change, you acquired it. As soon as it got older, you acquired it. You have to return the worth of the original animals with $100. Now it's only worth $75. You got to give them $100. Gozel matbeya. You stole a coin, vinistak, and it cracked. Now it's broken. Paris, so you stole some fruits for your kibbutz and they rotted. Or yain v'chmitz, or wine and it turned sour. Misham chasik zeil. Again, it was a change took place in your possession. You acquired it by the change, and you have to return what you stole. Matbeya, but those are all there were physical changes took place in the, let's say, the animal or in the coin or the fruits or whatever. Let's say, though, there was a change that's not visible to the eye. Matbeya v'nifso. You stole a coin and the government took it out of circulation. Coin's the same coin, right? It's like an old, an old shekel or whatever, old piasta, whatever they call it. Matbeya v'nifso, truma v'nit came tame. Can't see any physical change. Chametz or Pesach, chametz, and now Pesach came by. It's the same chametz, but no good. Behema and a sabdu an animal that was abused, and the animal's no good now. But when there was an ocean nipsla mizbeach, or it became possible for use on the mizbeach for whatever reason. Or now the animal was sentenced to death, but it looks like the same animal. It's yours. In other words, there was no physical change to it. Then the owner, it's still the owner's. And therefore, you can't say the Gaza could just say, "Here, I'm giving it back to you. It's worth a lot less now in all these cases. Too bad, because you didn't really acquire it." It doesn't mean literally that it only became old. Even if it just got deteriorated in value. The Mishnah says you stole an animal, got old. Doesn't only mean if it got old, even if it just got weakened. But the Mishnah said he got old. The answer is, Rashi says, it means weakened like getting older. The Lohar Bari. One of the things we've learned is that once you get older, you can't get younger again. It doesn't work in reverse, right? So just like when you age, you cannot become younger. The same thing here means we're deteriorated where you can't make it up. It's not like he just, he didn't eat for a few days, the animal's weighs a little bit less, so you could just refeed him. We're talking about if the animal became weakened, deteriorated in some form, just like aging, which cannot be reverted. Omelei Mark Shisha Ber Rav Chisda, the Rav Ashi, talk about aging, his name is Mark Shisha, right? The older one, right? Rav Chisda had two sons, Mark Shisha and Mar Yenuka, right? There's Machlokas, which was Kshisha the older one in Yenuka, or Kshisha is the younger one who was born when Rav Chisda was older, in his old age, whatever. Anyway, Mark Shisha Ber Rav Chisda said Rav Ashi, Hachakamer Mishmei to Rav Yochanan, we said to Rav Yochanan, listen, this is what I heard in the name of Rav Yochanan, I feel gone of Klev and Asahayel, even if you stole a lamb and it became a ram, or Egel ben Asashor, or a calf and became an ox, Nasa Shini Biyado, that's Shini Biyado Bekano. If you now shechted it or sold it, you wouldn't have to pay dalveh because you shechted your own, not the one that you stole. Amr Lay, so Rav Chisda said to, Rav Ashi said to Makshish Beit Rav Chisda, then I tell you, don't mix up, don't confuse the authors. How mishmei Rav Itmar? We just had it up above when the lines became. Where do we have that? Before the lines became wide at the two dots, we said Zakla Lasimai. Amrav Allah, God of Tlavin Asayel, the same Nasashin Gado, Shalom Tav Shalom Machah. That was Rav Allah said it, not Rabbi Yochanan. He says, this is what I heard in the name of Yochanan. He says, then I tell you, don't mix up the name, the authors. The authors was Rav Allah, but the idea is the same. So that's what he means over here too. We mean a change that cannot be reverted. If it's a change that cannot be reverted, that's a permanent change. And according to the Tanakama, you pay Kashas Exel in both cases. Rav Meir says, now what's the halacha here? So the Gemara goes on like this. Rav Meir Omer Bavaram Rav Chanina Barav Dimi Omer Rav Halacha Rav Meir. The halacha is like Rav Meir, that when it comes to an eved, you can't steal an eved, just like you can't steal karka. And therefore, even if the eved became older or deteriorated, whatever, just give it back the way it is intact. And you say, it's not mine, it's yours. There's more Rav Shavak Rav Meir. How could Rav Paskin like Rav Meir against the rabbis, against the Rabbanan? The Rabbanan said that Misham Chasik Zayla, that effective change. Amri Mishum de Braisa Ipcha Tanya. Because in the Braisa, the names are reverted. Rav Meir is the one who says what? Gazel Behema Viskina, Avodim Viskina, Misham Chasik Zayla. And the Chacham say, Ba'avodim you could say Resh Fenecha. So he went like the Braisa. It says Rav Shavak Masis Braisa. So why would he leave a Mishnah and go like the Braisa? If the Mishnah brings down that the Rabbanan say what? Rabbanan say Misham Chasik Zayla even by an Eved, and so if that's the sheet of the Rabbanan, if the Brisa has it reverted, and that's the sheet of Rav Meir, why would he leave the Brisa and go? Why would he leave the Mishnah and go like the Brisa? The answer is Rav Masnisa Nami Ipratani. He learned the Mishnah also revert in the reverse. That not the way we have it in our Mishnah. That the Chacham say Misham Chasik Zayla even by Avodim, but Rav Meir says Avodim Resh Benecha, but rather the Rabbanan said Resh Benecha, and therefore he paskin like Rav Meir the way our Mishnah reads. So my time of the Rav the Apech Masis and become Brisa. So why did Rav change a Mishnah to conform with the Brisa? Adarab and Nebech LeBrisa Mekam Masis. He should change the Brisa to conform with the Mishnah. Rav Nami Masnis Nipatasne. The answer is when we said that Rav learned the Mishnah and revert, he didn't change the Mishnah. He had the Mishnah written not the way our Mishnah reads on our page, but he had the Mishnah also written in reverse. That the Chachamim said when it comes to an Eved, and Rav Meir is the one who said that you pay Kshas like Zayla. So Rav Manas Nipatasne. Iboy say more. I could tell you kilo apech chada mekamechada. If you have a Brisa and a Mishnah, so the Mishnah is more authoritative, and you go with the Mishnah if it's 1 against 1. But over here, it's 2 against 1 because we have 2 Brisas against the Mishnah. Really, it's 2 against 1 because we have the Brisa and another Mishnah. Okay, he says it here. It's let's say 2 Brisas against the Mishnah. But if it's 2 Brisas against the Mishnah, we say that the 2 Brisas overpower the Mishnah. Where do we have the other Brisa? We have one Brisa which he said he had a Brisa there. We have another Brisa at Tanya. Listen to this case. Hamachlip par b'chamor. You bartered a para for a chamor. Of course, the chamor doesn't have children. The chamor, right, is a male, and the para has a child. The old and the para gave birth. Now, why is it machal para b'chamor? Because if you just say hamocher, you sold the para b'chamor. So when you how do you acquire a para? By mashicha, by pulling it. Well, then you could tell then it was pregnant or not. But here, what happened is that you bartered a para of a chamor, and you made a kinyan on the chamor. So the para you acquired as soon as you made a kinyan on the chamor. Now we don't know when did the para give birth, before the kinyan or after kinyan. Did it belong to the original owner or to the buyer? So you sold a shifcha. Also, by when you sold the shifcha, you could be sold the kesef shtar chazaka. So maybe it was sold for kesef and she wasn't there at the time. She gave birth. One says of the two people, the mocher and the lokeach. One says if she was born at my rishus, so I own the baby, and one says I don't know. Shosik is quiet. Zachaba, either because Bar B'Shem Bariada, for Tosa says even if you don't know Bar B'Shem Bariada, if it's speaking about like Shtika Koda, he's mode, okay, you keep it. There many of them said, let's say both say we don't know. We don't know when the baby was born. Yachloku, you split it. This goes like Sumkas, who holds Maman Suffolk Cholkin. And it's not in anybody's rishus because it was, let's say, in an agam or a public place. Zem b'shusi v'zem b'shusi. Let's say they both say yes, no, it was born in my rishus, it was born in my rishus. Yish b'hamocher sheb'shusi yolda. The mocher must swear that it was born in his rishus. V'shekol nishbon shebetor nishbon v'lo mishalma div Rav Meir. The mayor says, why does the mocher? Because the mocher is the one who. What happens over here? The mocher says he was born in my rishus. The lokeach was born in my rishus. Kech says, listen, I bought from you a slave or I bought from you a para, and you owe me the animal too. So the mocher says, no, I don't owe you the baby, right? Because he's swearing in order not to pay. Minator, you only swear when you're avoiding payments, learned out of a pasuk, right? Like Bodibah makes us, you swear on part of it, you remote to part of it, and you swear on the other part that you don't owe it. So he says, who should swear? The one who doesn't have to pay it, meaning we know it was originally, the part was in the rishus of the mocher. And now the lokech said, I bought it with the baby. And the mocher says, no, the baby was born before you actually took possession, so the baby belongs to me. So he swears in order to get out of it. It's like modem mixas because the owner, the lokech says, I bought from you a mother and a child and the baby. And he says, no, I only sold you the mother, not the child. Rashi brings down the case is complicated, but let's see, it's talking about where the mother's hand was cut off too. Otherwise, it would be a case of halach. So it wouldn't be exactly a case of modern mixes, but that's more complicated. Just understand that it's the mocher makes the shvur according to Rav Meir. Because you don't swear on avadim and karka, and this is an eved. You don't swear on the shifcha. You wouldn't swear on the shifcha. In the case of the eved, like the shifcha, you wouldn't swear. So you see over here, why don't you swear on an eved? Because an eved is like karka. So that would be the sheet of the rabbanan. That the rabbanan say that an eved is like karka, and you can say reish shachal fanecha. So where you have a brisa which reverses the authors in our Mishnah, and this other brisa also reverses it because this brisa also says that according to Chachamim, Rav Meir doesn't say einish born al karka. He would say maybe you would swear because an eved is not like karka, whereas the Chacham say an eved is like karka. An eved is like karka, you could say reish shachal fanecha. Okay, so Rav Chanina bar Rav Dimi said in the name of Rav that the halacha is like what? Like Rav Meir, but really doesn't mean Rav Meir. It means like the Chachamim, that an eved, you buy an eved, you stole an eved and became older, you could just, even though he's worth less, you could say reish shachal fanecha because you didn't acquire it like karka. So if that's the case, why did he say halacha Rav Meir? It's really halacha rabbanan. He should have said halacha like rabbanan because he reversed the shittas. My defchisa v'tanisu halacha Rav Meir. The rabbanan are really the ones who say that by an eved you can say reish shachal fanecha. But the way you have it reversed in the Mishnah, the way our Mishnah reads, that Rav Meir is one who says reish shachal fanecha, then the halacha is like Rav Meir. Did Rav really say that an eved is like karka? Because that's what Rav is saying here. That he paskins like Rav Meir in our Mishnah, which is really the Rabbanan. Did Rav really say that an eved is like karka? Daniel bar Rav Katina Amarav. I'll talk about this. Let's say you see somebody else's eved. Guy's got an eved. You see him sitting around there. So you took him, and you say, come here over here, do some work for me. He did some work for you. But you don't have to pay. You don't have to pay for the work. If an eved is like karka, dummy, on my part, why didn't you have to pay? B'shus the marika. You didn't. If an eved is like karka, you didn't steal him, so he's now yours, and you get to work with him, and you give him back just the way it was. You stole somebody else's eved. It's like I used somebody's car, I used somebody's plow or whatever. I should pay for the usage. Right? It's like that. On my part, b'shus the marika. He's still in the rishus of the owner of the eved, and you used his item, and you should pay for that for his usage. So you didn't cause any financial loss to the owner of the eved because he wasn't working. He was on his break at that time. He's on break most of the day. He was on break, then he wasn't. He didn't cause him any loss. Rav Rav Abba said, Lemori Barmar. Boy, me name Rafuni Esakasha Rafuna the following case. Let's say you live in somebody else's house or somebody else's chutzner without his knowledge. You have to pay him rent or not. You don't have to pay. Why? Because it wasn't normally rented out anyway. So, it's like Zen ahead of his Elo Chasser. There's no problem over here. The place wasn't rented out anyway. And over here also, the Eved wasn't working at the time. So I didn't cause him any loss. That's why I don't have to pay. Yes, an Eved is like Karka. And really, it still belongs to the owner. But what did I do? I didn't cause him any loss. He wasn't working anyway. It's like I'm sleeping in somebody's house he's not renting it out anyway. How can you compare it to sleeping in somebody's chutzner or house? Whether you hold that a house that's lived in is more stable, doesn't get bad, because if somebody lives in the house, if you ever own an apartment or a house and you leave it empty, it's not healthy. There might be a water leak, things break, you got to have somebody in the house there to fix the little items, make sure, pardon?
If you're away from the house a certain amount of time, the machines change.
Right, because they know that there could be a catastrophic, damage, and nobody's there to see it. Right, exactly right. I saw that yesterday. Somebody sent around a notice about advertising for somebody managing apartments, and one of the items that he wrote was that he'll deal with the insurance company, to visit the place enough times. He'll manage the empty property. To make sure that the insurance company is satisfied that somebody's looking at it, whatever. That was one of the things he talked about. I saw it yesterday. I didn't know that, but that's a good point. That the insurance companies want somebody living there. So he says, whether you hold like that a house that's lived in is more stable, he's happy. The owner's happy if somebody lives there. Shia was like the name of a shade. When a place is empty, it becomes like a haunted house. The Shia destroys the gate, like the empty house is destroyed. The guy's happy. How can you compare using somebody's slave to staying in somebody's empty house? Whether you hold just logically that a house that's lived in is more stable, or whether you hold that a house that's empty is subject to demons. So either way, the owner's happy that somebody's there. Over here, is the owner happy that his eved should be weakened by you using his eved during his break? The owner's always happy. He doesn't want his eved to become idle, to become lazy. In other words, even if you own an eved, you don't want him to sit around and do nothing. He gets used to not working. You want to keep him active all the time. There, Rav Yosef Bar Chama, in the house of Rav Yosef Bar Chama, he used to seize slaves, the Masbuzuze. Somebody owed him money and didn't pay, so he would take his slave and use him. And do work with Amalei Rabba Bray. So Rabba, his son, said to him, "My time of why are you doing that?" Amalei, the Amr of Nachman said, "Abda, the whom Kreisel Shav is not even worth the bread that he eats, the bread in his stomach. In other words, he's not worth much anyway. It's not even worth that. If I'm feeding him, it's worth. The guy's better off. He's better off I'm using him than staying empty, than staying with no work, because he won't even be worth. If he does nothing and you have to feed him, you're really losing. He's not even worth the food that he loses. I mean, he's not worth much." I'm like, Rav Nachman could go Daru Abde. Rav Nachman was talking about his own slave, Daru, that was his name. The Mirka Beiruba used to dance in the bars, that he likes to hang around. He doesn't do much work. But most slaves do work and they're worth something. I don't like Rav Daniel, right? The Rav Daniel Bar Tina. Amarav, this we said at the top of the page. If you see somebody else's eved, and you do work with them, you're potter. So Alma Nechale, he's happy for me to do work with them. In other words, he said there's a difference between using an apartment because using an apartment, the guy's happy. But is he happy if you use a slave? Yes, he's happy that his slave shouldn't be idle and get used to being lazy and not doing anything. Alma Nechale, the low list Rebbe, he wants his eved not to be idle and sit around and do nothing. Amalei, so his son told him, that's fine if he didn't owe you money. If you took the eved of somebody, you needed some work done, you took this guy, and he wasn't working anyway. If you took him away from the field while the guy was working, obviously you caused him a loss. But if you took him away while he wasn't working, you're doing the guy a favor, you're keeping him busy. But over here, this guy owed you money. The owner of the eved owed you money. That doesn't look good. Mar, Kivin the Masik Buzuzi, since in your case, he owes you money, it looks like ribbis. looks like ribbis. He owes you money, and he's not paying you, so you use his slave. That looks like ribbis. Amar of Yosef, Amar Yomi, Amar of Nachman. Even though we said that if you live in somebody else's chutzner without his knowledge, you don't have to pay him for that if it's not something that's normally used. It's not something that's normally rented out. But if you lent him money and then you live in his chutzner, you have to pay him because it looks like ribbis. Amalei, Hajbe, you're right. I retract. I won't do that again. He retracted. It's a good point because it doesn't look right. It's not necessarily ribbis, but it looks like ribbis, and therefore he said he shouldn't have done that. So if you steal somebody's slave when he's not working and you return him intact, that's okay because the guy doesn't mind that you use his slave because he doesn't want him to be standing around anyway. But if a guy owes you money and you take his slave, that doesn't look good, and therefore you shouldn't do that at all. All right, we'll pick it up from here by tomorrow. Yeah.
That's good because it's not a, what does it mean?
Doesn't it looks like you're getting interest. It doesn't look good, but we have to be concerned about Marasayan. It's like Marasayan, it doesn't look good. It doesn't look good. It doesn't look good. It looks like it. So it could be interpreted as ribbis, and therefore you have to be more careful. Certainly not a derisive of this, but it doesn't look right.
Ephraim,
Yeah.
why, in the case of the guy steals the cow and plows with it for 2 weeks and then returns the cow, why doesn't he have to pay a schar that he rented it?
Okay, so Einachanami, if we're going to talk about the next case tomorrow, we're going to talk about that when he has to steal somebody's boat, and does he and he deteriorated? Does he have to pay for rent or does he have rent or deterioration? That's the very next case. We'll see that tomorrow. Right? Same thing with the cow. Now, in the case of the cow, it would be the same way that if the cow is normally rented out, or the owner could not use the cow for that period and he lost that amount of money, he had to hide it, go buy another one, and a tsunami, then he would have to pay the rent. They were talking about where there was no loss to the owner. If there was loss to the owner, he lost the rent or he lost the work and he had another one in its place, and a tsunami would be a problem. Yeah. Yeah. Once in a while, but it's not like usually not. Even by Rabbi Kiva, we usually pass like Kiva, but not Mechabe Rab. It's very rare that we pass like it's rare we pass like Besham. It's rare that we pass like the menorah.